You can sit comfortably on the chair.
Oh, yeah, fine. Either way.
No, mashallah, Abu Bakr is always sitting like that. Alhamdulillah. That's why we put it short, so we can comfortable to solve
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين الصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين رحمة للعالمين أبي القاسم محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد
وأهل بيت الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.
وعليكم السلام ورحمة الله وبركاته.
First of all, let me make it clear that our journey into the history and its connection with our spirituality and our morality is not an easy one. Human memory becomes distorted after a while. And even that takes place a week ago, if you were to recall tonight, you will not be able to recall everything accurately. If you're honest enough, then you would say, as far as what I remember, this is what happened. You will put this Edward as far as I remember. You will never claim this is exactly what happened last week. Unless you have a camera, unless you have a recorder, unless you have ways of protecting all the information that would not be omitted or committed to more details when it's not there. Islam has been, and I'm starting off with this, that Islam has been in the fighting mode from the time the Prophet ﷺ declared قُولُوا لَا إِلَهَ إِلَّا اللَّهُ تُفْلِحُوا. From the day he declared this, Islam has been battling. This is jihad fi tariq al-iman. Jihad in the path of iman. If you read the history, if you read the chapters of the Quran in the last part of the Quran, the Meccan chapters, then you can easily understand what kind of people was the Prophet working with. It wasn't easy. You are trying to change the mentality of the people who are used to idol worship, who are used to take the religion in a very different way. For them, their might is their wealth, their power is their ability to control other human beings, to buy them, to sell them. That was the kind of a society the Quraysh were living in. Mecca was not an ideal city. To add to this difficulty, there was also this tribal system, which was based on kinship and blood relationship. You are Banu Tuhama, you are Banu Hashim, you are Banu Umayyah, you are Banu Abbas, and that source of identity was always contested. It wasn't easy for people to really claim a lineage to an important tribe. And the tribe, there were genealogists, those who used to have, all kind of understanding and information about whose child you are. They say Aqil bin Abi Talib was a specialist in Ashraf, in the Sharaf, in the Nasab, in the understanding of the genealogy. We also told you that Abu Bakr was quite well informed about genealogies. In other words, tribal relationship was based on the blood relationship with no consideration whatsoever about any other human qualities that we have. Moreover, Islam brought about the idea of Tawheed began with La ilaha and affirmation of Ilah. You have to reject all the gods and goddesses that you believed in. Your wealth, your power, your tribal lineage, your claims of honor and everything. You have to reject everything in order for you to allow Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to be in your heart as your God. It was the denial that made possible the confirmation. And many times in the life of the spiritual journey, you go through the denial. You deny certain comforts of life in order to become strong spiritually. I'm telling you, this is true. The more comfortable you live, the less you have appreciation of your actual understanding of your own reality. And I'm not saying that you should be adopting poverty. What I'm saying is that in spite of having the wealth, you are not controlled by it. That's poverty. It's not that you don't have and you claim that I'm poor. Yeah, of course you are miskin. You are faqir. Oh, you are rich. You are sharing your wealth with the unfortunate, with the underprivileged, and you are not an extravagant person. Kulu washrabu la tusrifu. Eat, drink, but don't be extravagant. This is the growth of spirituality. Imagine to change that kind of people. And then Islam comes not in the vacuum of other religions. It comes when Christianity is the dominant religion in Arabia. Whole Arabia was Christian, by the way. Different forms of Christianity. Judaism was very limited. Because it was a tribal religion, it was also ethnocentric. You had to belong to Hebrew people in order for you to claim to be, Jewish in that sense. Islam came and introduced a new faith that was challenging the foundations of the previous religions. So from day one, Christendom, I'm not saying Christianity, pay attention to the usage of the words. Christendom always fought Islam as a threat to Christian claim to exclusive truth. The battle was that who has the truth? Do I have the truth or you have the truth? That kind of relationship created what we call the scholarship that continues to dominate even today in the academia. I sent you 2 articles so that you become informed of the academic approach to the religion of Islam. Not only Islam, by the way, I must say that that's the approach of all. It applies to all religions. Today, academic study of Christianity is no different than academic study of Islam. Christians are complaining the same thing that you and I will complain. Academic study of Judaism also is the same way. The only difference has come into the academia in North America is that now Judaism can be taught only by the Jews. I tell you, there is no university where you dare teach Judaism if you are not a Jew. More and more Christianity is being taught by Christians. Catholicism by Catholics. Yes. It's only Islam that can be taught by anyone.
That's right.
This is a fact. In the university. So Baha'i can teach Islam, Jewish person can teach Islam. So many Baha'is teaching Islam. There are so many with no idea, who don't even read any Arabic, they can teach Islam. But you can't teach Judaism if you don't know Hebrew. You can't teach Christianity if you don't know Greek. I want you to be aware of the way we are being handled. I'm using very polite word, handled. There could be much worse. We are handled in academia. When I go for interview, they ask me. They don't dare ask my Jewish or Christian colleagues, do you believe in the Quran to be the word of God? I've been asked. Why? And I have said quite clearly to them that this is not part of the job description, is it? Why am I being asked? Should we think that if you believe the Quran is the word of God, then you can't teach Islam objectively? Oh wow. Objectivity. Who defines objectivity, you or I? The two articles that I sent you is by W.M. Watt. By the way, quite moderate compared to Lamans, Becker, and others who have written, you should read Gozia, Ignaz Gozia, Hungarian Jew. You should read Joseph Schacht, German Jew. They have written books on Islam, by the way. Up to now, Islamic law we used to learn in the university by reading Joseph Schacht. Andrew Lawson. I don't know who and who of that, so many of them. In other words, we were told you don't know how to teach Islamic law. We will teach you how to teach Islamic law. In other words, I'm not exaggerating anything, by the way. Na'uzubillah. It is a lie to do it. Ghulub is a lie. But I want you to understand the challenge that how our Prophet ﷺ has been treated in the writings. The sources of Ibn Ishaq, this is Ibn Ishaq. That's not a small book, is it? It's loaded with information. So we are going to discuss the information, and we are constantly told, that there's a difference between history and hagiography. Does anyone know what is hagiography?
Historiography.
He was my student at the University of Virginia. Hagiography is the story of a saint. The story of the saint usually cannot be tested on this earth. It has miracles. You can't explain miracles objectively. You have to experience miracles, but you have to keep quiet about it. See, the world in which we are living, they say, this is the miracle of science. That's not a miracle of science. It's a discovery of the science. Science discovers, doesn't perform miracles. Only awliya Allah are capable of performing the miracles. And even today miracles can happen. So we are not part of that community that denies miracles. Because miracles do happen. But in the university, you can't teach a course on miracles in religion. Let's say. It's too subjective. Or you can't teach a course, let's say, on religious experience without involving psychology. Because you need to involve psychology in order to understand human mind. And psychology must be explored to its abnormal levels, because religion is abnormal. Religious experience in psychology is regarded as abnormal. If you say, when I'm praying I go into trance, I become ecstatic. They cannot evaluate that. Psychologists are not capable of doing it. They might put some, they are doing this, by the way. What changes are coming into your brain? That's the limit of what they can do. So they can do brain scanning today in order to understand the kind of changes that are taking place when you say, oh, I'm in love with God. Because otherwise science says, that's not something objective. I cannot even analyze it. It's not empirical. It's a subjective claim. So religion or humanity is reduced to subjective. So in this book, if there is poetry, then the social scientists are saying, poetry cannot give any information, by the way. Poetry is for different purposes. It cannot serve as documentation. Well, we have challenged, by the way, Professor Maduluk, who wrote the book on succession of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, has challenged that presumption. Because what he had analyzed in his book on succession, especially during the period of Imam Ali's Khilafah, he had analyzed the poetry that was being sent from Damascus to Kufa. The poems had information. The letters had information. Especially the poems that are satirical. In other words, they were court poets who used to write down about accounts. And it's true, by the way, if you're a student of Persian literature, if you're reading Unsuri's poems, they tell you about the Mahmud Ghaznavi's attack on India and his conquest of India. You have to read Unsuri to understand what happened. Unsuri is Qasai. Historical information. Here, you read the article by what says poetry has no value. You read that poetry has no value. Okay, hadith has no value. Why hadith has no value? Because this is a religious piece of information. We really can't ascertain who said it and when was it said. After all, the recording of the hadith was much later. You read in the article, I'm referring to, please do read the article. Don't be put off by the articles. I want you to understand your enemy. This is Dushman Shalawsi. If you don't understand who is against you, you will not understand what forces are you fighting. You must understand what others say about you, so that you will know you are prepared in your mental and your intellectual capacities to fight back where it is necessary to use polite language to fight back. You don't have to be wild. I come from a tradition that is, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that, when you speak to Pharaoh, you must use qawlul layyin. Speak softly with Pharaoh. Don't shout at him. Although Pharaoh is your enemy, you still talk nicely to him. In other words, you don't talk to your enemy impolitely. Talk very politely. And this is what I think you learn in the two articles. It's a challenge to the way you and I think. Because what it does that, I could have started off giving you a piece by Abdulaziz Abduri. His first chapter will put your heart at rest. Because it gives you an analysis of Muslim sources, the way he understands them as an academician, but a Muslim sensitive academician. You don't have to be pride cut. We have a number of Muslim scholars teaching in the university who have no connection with Islam as a religion. They are not even connected with Islam as a culture. There are quite a number of them. I don't have to mention many names. Fuad Ajami, if you have read his books, Johns Hopkins University, I call him an establishment scholar. Because he is with the establishment. And the establishment promotes him. We'll give you. And I bet that, Without that establishment support, he would not be able to do things that he is doing. So here's a book about Imam Musa Sadr. I don't know how many of you have seen it. Please read that book. It's very interesting. Or there is another book here, Arab Predicament. And it discusses issues. Then you and I would be shocked. But we need to understand what others are saying about us, so that we begin to appreciate what kind of jihad a person like me is fighting in the university. Because you can't remain indifferent. Indifference means compromise. Oh yes. When you don't see, you see, we have this rule about prudential concealment. I'm not supposed to say things if my life is going to be endangered. But I'm living in a country, alhamdulillah, alhamdulillah, I have freedom of speech. I might be blacklisted. But that doesn't mean that I should not be able to say the truth. It's a good thing that I'm able to speak my mind in the university. I can open a book and say, I don't think this is a fair statement about these people. No, you can't do that. And in the university there is now discussion about racism. They are now finding out that we in the academia and the history departments are not addressing the questions of racism. And therefore there is a vacuum in understanding and building the relationship between African American community and the WASP, the white community. Because it's not being honest. So honesty is not there. What I'm talking about is academic integrity. You cannot have the integrity. Allah will not be your teacher if you are not aware of Allah's presence in what you are saying, even in the classroom when nobody is there to stop you from doing it. This is what I'm talking about, the conscientious commitment to the integrity. I don't mean to say that our scholars in the past were conscientious scholars. I'm not defending Ibn Ishaq. He had his own axis to grind. Tabari had his own axis to grind. I don't mean to say Mas'udi was a neutral historian who collected all the information and put it together for you and me to read in the later generations. What I'm simply saying is that we must understand scholarly pre-commitments. This is known as scholarly presuppositions. No author is writing without any commitment. Sometimes the commitment is the commitment to the faith. Sometimes commitment is to the politics. Sometimes commitment is to racism. Sometimes commitment is to ethnocentrism. There are historians who write to uplift, a particular race. The Arabic sources, they are talking about the greatness of the Arab people. There are Iranian sources that speak about the greatness of the Iranian people. And so on and so forth. There are so many, you can go in any part of the world and you do find that kind of history being written. In the case of religion also, there are people who are writing the books on religion, trying to cover the religion from any kind of attack by the outsiders, or by those who don't follow your maslak, your school of thought. So Sunni is writing a book, and is trying to say that, this is for your understanding. You, my Sunni audience, you need to understand this is your history. This is when history becomes a tradition. Because as an author, I say that I will write only that you want to hear. I will not write something that you don't want to hear. Therefore, when it comes to Khilafah, let's say, the whole question of Khilafah, we find that there's a discrepancy in the information. There was one sentence that was very striking in did you see that? Did you notice that sentence? Shiite extremism when they talk about home, Ghadir home. Did you see that sentence? So this is judgment. How many times you would read a book? Ahmad Amin writes, Fajr al-Islam, Baal Islam. His book Asr al-Islam was not published. because that was too difficult for the Sunni Muslims to accept. Or Taha Hussein, Fitnat al-Kubra. The Fitnat al-Kubra dealt with the period of Usman. Ali wa Banuhu, that would be Khilafah Imam Ali and his sons. Now if you read those books, by the way, they are written by first-rate scholars. But there is already a scholarly pre-commitment that Tabari shows quite clearly that as a member of Ahlul Sunnah wal Jama'ah, he could not write something that went against understanding the Rashidun. In other words, he is fighting between history and tradition. If you don't understand, please raise your hand and I will explain further. These are very important structural lectures. I'm preparing you for much more material when we go ahead. I'm trying to connect your mind so that you understand where I am coming from. You have to understand, you have to know me. You don't have to accept everything I say. But if you don't understand what I'm saying, you have a right to question me. Tabari is faced with history and tradition. And this is how I explain it. Tradition says that certain individuals must remain immune from any critical assessment. Critical assessment should not be applied to them. The mother of believer, al-Mu'minin Aisha radiyallahu anha, should remain immune from any kind of criticism. al-Mu'minin Hafsa, the daughter of Umar ibn al-Khattab, should remain immune from any kind of criticism. And look at the way the Quran brings these two wives, by the way. It talks about these two women, by the way, without mentioning them by name. The names appear only in the tafsir. Tafsir could not hide it. But what I'm suggesting here is that scholarly pre-commitment creates attention in the mind of the scholar who's going to write about a subject that he believes cannot be brought under critical scrutiny, critical understanding. Because if you do it, then the tradition will be hurt. I want to cite a good example here. Uthman bin Affan, in the history, is shown to be a political leader having weaknesses. Having weaknesses in making decisions. Therefore being dependent upon Marwan ibn al-Hakam, his cousin. Marwan ibn al-Hakam is someone, according to history, whenever there's tradition, I'll say according to tradition. So please understand what I'm doing. According to history, Marwan ibn al-Hakam was kicked out of Medina by the Prophet ﷺ. He said, this man is corrupt, I don't want him to be in Medina. He should be out. He's brought back by the Khalifa and is made into a right hand. Because this is the person whom he consults all the time. For Tabari writing this is very heavy. It's very hard for him to justify why would Uthman get Marwan ibn al-Hakam, who should not have been in Medina. Not only getting in Medina, but also making him his close advisor. How can he depend on someone the Prophet has already discredited him? Because he knew what he was doing. And Marwan was a crafty man. Then comes the appointment of Muawiyah ibn Abi Sufyan in Damascus. Reconfirmation of the governor's position. He was already appointed by Umar ibn al-Khattab. Umar ibn al-Khattab, according to history, goes to Damascus and sees the way Muawiyah has created a palace, a court, something that was not in Medina. Medina was very simple. This Khulafa, the first and the second, they lived a simple life. There's no doubt about it. Mas'ud, he talks about it. Mas'ud is a Shia historian. He goes, he said that the mosque was their government, the seat of government. They sat in the mosque, they ran the government from the mosque. They had no premises to live. History tells us when he visited, the second caliph visits Damascus, he said, my God, you are living like Roman kings. And the answer he gives is this. This is recorded in the history. You can go and find in Tabari. He said, I am closer to the Byzantine Empire. If they come to visit me and they see me like what you do in Medina, they will laugh at me. They will not even think that I have the power that I am talking about. So I'm changing. And this change is necessary. He said, why do you need these curtains? Golden curtains. Why do you need this beautification of your... He said, this is all part of living next to the Byzantines. For Tabari to write it later on creates a tension. Why couldn't Umar ibn al-Khattab say, Muawiyah, I don't want you to be the governor representing me, or send somebody as a replacement for you? Could have done it. He had power to do it. He saw the moral problem and he did not correct it. For Tabari in the 3rd century to write about this event is problematic. Because he's already idolized the individual. Therefore he could not write anything negative about him. When it came to Usman's, by the way, Usman's account in Tabari, you will find that Tabari is making the andamish lahzeda. He was shaking. He couldn't believe what he was writing. Because he could not say, all the traditions I have received are false. He had to write. And that's the toughest assignment he had, to criticize Uthman ibn Affan. Because tradition had already made him Rashidun. Now the Rashidun, one among the Rashidun has to be dropped on the ground now. How can I do it? This is what I'm talking about. Tradition and history, there's a contradiction. And all scholars are not capable of remaining neutral. Probably it took him a while to come to the decision that, what can I do? This is what has been recorded for him. This is how he was. I have to write it. I'm telling you that even in the academia, we are now, why you think our ulama are not writing the biography of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam? You give me one answer, convincing answer. Why are they not writing? Why doesn't any great mujtahid take upon himself that I am going to write a history that is conclusive history, categorical history about the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam? I want to underscore one important point. Please keep that in mind. That there is a problem in the sources. You cannot totally rely on everything that is being said about the Prophet by the later generations. This is a fact. The way we talk about Imam Khomeini today, those who knew Imam Khomeini during his own contemporary time, there was this Agha Teherani who came out and read a qasida in the praise of Imam Khomeini. Imam Khomeini said, stop. This is ghulu. This is for the Aima, for the Masumin, not for me. If this happened in the lifetime of the Imam himself, imagine what happened after the lifetime. What people have attributed to him, what people have ascribed to him. And I'll tell you that I'm reading the literature, and there is this newspaper, Al-Rai, coming out of Jordan. During the Iran-Iraq war, they are giving this hadith in the name of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Na'udzubillah. That there will be a man by the name of Sadim who will come and defeat the Jews and the Christians. And they were connecting this hadith with Saddam Hussein, by the way. But the spelling was the same, Saad and Saad, As, Alif, the Dalmi, Saad. putting in the mouth of the Prophet that this Saddam Hussein is the savior of this ummah, so to speak, because he was throwing bombs at Israel that nobody else could do it. They forgot it. That there's a responsibility in citing a hadith from the Prophet about a man who's so corrupt, who's bloodthirsty. Well, imagine a man, a bloodthirsty man after his death. I'm told by the eyewitness reports that in Jordan and other places in the Arab world, they were mourning Saddam Hussein. They could not believe that their hero had been beheaded. Imagine if you look at the literature about Saddam Hussein in the last 50, in the last so many years since he has been overthrown, you should not be surprised to see that there is a tradition about Saddam today, floating among the people, Awam al-Nas, because he's still a hero. He's still a hero. In other words, history can do this. History can turn into a narration that is tradition. Tradition becomes dangerous if it is based on hearsay and it is based on theology. Theology. In the moment, this is a big battle in the historical sources about Imam Abi Talib. Have you heard about this? Whether Abu Talib, the uncle of the Prophet ﷺ, had become a Muslim or not. There is a big battleground. There are so many volumes spent on disproving that he was a Muslim, that he had died without accepting Islam. And when you look at the motives behind it, is to actually to make a disreputable lineage of Imam Ali ibn Abi Talib. That's the only goal, by the way. To say that, Ali, you say Ali was this, no, he can't be that. The son of Abi Talib would never even accept Islam. And here the Quran is talking about him, by the way. When the Prophet ﷺ was an orphan, and when he was given this protection by the guardian, because in the Arab culture to be an orphan was a very weak position for a child. You needed someone to become your guardian. This was tribal culture. And the Prophet was under the guardianship of Abi Talib. So Abi Talib just took the Prophet and he loved him because he was Muhammad bin Abdullah, he was the son of his brother. He had no feeling about Islam. He had no feeling about what the Prophet was. Now how can you believe such a thing? But that's what they're trying to do. In other words, history can go in your favor or against you, depending on the author, depending on the time, depending on the sources you are using, and depending on the political motives you have. Montgomery Watt is not neutral. He is a Christian theologian who has lived in Egypt for many years. He knows his Arabic very well. He knows his sources quite well. The problem for you and me is that the sources he's using and the conclusions he's deriving are with certain presumptions. Because he says, if it is hadith, we don't accept it. This is much later, So there are no oral sources, there are no written sources about it. If it is poetry, I don't think that's very important, source of information. I don't know. The tafsir, tafsir, Ibn Ishaq used tafsir in order to beef up what he was saying in the biography. You saw this statement. I wanted you to experience first time when you are a student and you read these sources, how angry you become. What do you mean by that? You mean to say people are writing in the 3rd century all this information and they have not seen anything going back to the 1st century? How can you believe that? There's archaeological material. But the tragedy today is for you and me, the tragedy is that Medina is destroying this. The government of Arabia is destroying all the history, by the way. Medina, in the expansion of the mosque of the Prophet, they have destroyed almost all the elements of archaeological discussions that could have taken place. Archaeology is being destroyed. In Makkah, they have destroyed the house of Khadija, sallallahu alayhi. They have destroyed the house of the Prophet where he was born. Because it was pre-Islamic for them. The Prophet was not even a Muslim at that time. We don't have to preserve anything like that. He became Muslim at the age of 40. So, these strange ideas, Because they talk about Isma and they say Bashariyat al-Rasul wa Nubuwwat al-Rasul. Bashariyah, he can make mistakes, he can tell lies, he can do anything. Bashar. But when he's Nabi, as a Nabi, he doesn't have to do it. He's reached to the point when Mawlana Madhuri, when he wrote a book, he made the distinction then, that the Prophet life was divided between Bashariyah and Nubuwwah. Bashariyah had no guarantee. Nubuwwah had a guarantee from the Quran. Who is going to tell us, from here to here this is Bashariyah, from here to here this is Nubuwwah? He got married at the age of 40. He got unmarried also at the age of 50. Is it Nubuwwah or Bashariyah? These are normal acts of human beings. And yet you are going to somehow implicate the Prophet and try to justify later generations. How could you do that? Let me come to the main core of my discussion tonight. I want to continue our theme. What I have made clear to you in my last lecture is, truth must be established for the knowledge to become influential in our ability to make moral judgments. If there is no truth, if we don't adhere to the truth, then you and I will not receive the help from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to be able to learn directly from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is my claim. It's subjective, but I know, but I must make it quite clear to you. You want to understand me, where I'm coming from. I'm coming from a school of thought. I'm coming from a school of thought that teaches me to believe that if I adhere to the truth, I will reach the true knowledge. There is no way that I will be deprived of the true knowledge if I adhere to the truth. It's such an important value in the Quran. That Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has cursed the liars. La'natullah al-kadhibin. Al-Adwalimin. And kunu ma'as-sadiqin. Allah wants us to be with those who are truthful. You and I have an obligation to search for the truth. And here we should not allow our personal grudges or our personal predilections and preferences to interfere. Truth demands that we should adhere. Once we know it, then we have a commitment to it. Therefore, when my brother said, well, I know that Imam Ali is right. Well, what are you waiting for then? Why don't you declare your allegiance to Imam Ali? You know it. You say you know it. And you say also that that's the truth that comes out from all my reading, all my research. Now why are you waiting? You already know it. You don't have to wait. Because your ability to learn more will be controlled because you're not accepting it. Your ability to know what you want to know is dependent upon your acceptance where the truth is. So Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, according to the history, in the last pilgrimage, the only pilgrimage he performed, this is given in the historical sources. I'm talking about historical sources. I'm not talking about tradition. Keep in mind, I'm very particular in using my words. I don't want to fall into this wishy-washiness in my discourse. No, I don't. I want you to understand where I'm coming from. Imam Ali was sent to Yemen by the Prophet. In Yemen, after the war, after the battle was over, and the ghanaim, the booty was collected, people took liberty to pick anything they wanted. Imam Ali forced them to say, no, you remove it, keep it here. I will distribute it the way it is supposed to be distributed. There's no favorism. I will not favor anyone, I will not deprive anybody of his rights. There were some Sahaba who got very angry. Who is he to tell us to remove what we have taken? After all, we also fought these battles. Imam Ali said, it's not the matter of whether you were here or not. I want to follow the rule that has been set in the Quran. I'll make sure that the homes is separated and the forfeit is distributed among the soldiers. Those who are, riders, they get a share that is prescribed for them. Those who are cavalry, they have different infantry, they have different share. These companions, some of the big names, they come back to Medina, to Makkah, by the way. The Prophet was waiting for Imam Ali to come because the Hajj had not started yet. They came and complained. This is what Ali did to us. He's insulted in front of people. The way they were talking, this is recorded. How will you know he insulted us? The Prophet ﷺ is looking at them and says, don't you know al-haqqu ma'ali wa aliyyun ma'al-haqq? In other words, he was telling them, shut up. It was very clear. Al-haqqu ma'ali wa aliyyun ma'al-haqq. Truth it is with Ali and Ali is with the truth. What he did was the right thing to do. I think if Imam Ali had made a mistake, then the Prophet would have said, that was his mistake. I'll get him to apologize to you people. Prophet is that kind of personality. And Ali was like his own student, his own child. He would have told him, come, you did this mistake. Seek forgiveness from them. You deprived them of their rights. Instead the Prophet making a statement. And this is why I said, أنا مدينة العلم علي بابها. I am the city of knowledge and Ali is the gate of the knowledge. What if, and this is by the way a very important tradition and I'm using here important hadiths that have been recorded by everyone. If you go to Aligarh Muslim University in Aligarh in Uttar Pradesh in India, in the entrance of the university mosque, this is where it is, Ana Madinatul Ilm Ali bin Babuha. I am the city of knowledge. And Ali is the gate. That means come to the knowledge through Ali alayhi salam. I should quickly conclude. I can take you for hours in this journey, but I want to give you also a chance to ask, because you've read the article, supposedly that you have read the article, then you have questions also. And I do realize that I assigned you something very tough. But it's good to understand what others are saying about your religion, about the founder of your religion, and you want to understand and appreciate the important aspects of the history, the way it should be read. And what the reason why I'm insisting upon truth is, if truth was not possible to find, God would never have told us, Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu kunu ma'as-sadiqin. There is no imposition of obedience if the task is impossible. If truth was not acceptable, and if you and I as moderns we're living in complete doubt, or we say, there is no way for us to reach any truth. Like many academicians say, we are cynical about everything. I said, no, I have faith in something. cynical about the truth is denial of the truth, actually. When you know 5 times 5 is 25, you must declare 5 times 25 is 25. When you know that prophetology can be established through the miracles only, because these are the ambassadors of God, and they need some kind of accreditation, and their accreditation is through the source of their miracle, then the Quran is the miracle of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Whether you like it or not, you have to declare it. And you can't teach, even in the university, you can't teach Islam if you don't believe in the validity of the book. It's like saying, I don't believe in 5 times 5 is 25. What do you mean? You can't teach mathematics. You're out of it. This is the mathematics of religion. You can't teach it if you don't believe it. And believing it is not, you're not doing any favor to God. You're doing favor to yourself. Let me tell you. Because Iman is supposed to generate in you a sense of security. You will never have security if you waver from here to there. If you don't have way of, this is known as nifaq in the religious language. Ibtala al-nifaq. You are being tried by God. You claim to be a believer. I want to see what kind of believer you are. And God is constantly testing us. Trials are part of our life. The trials are given to us so that we can prove our own stance on the truth. Believe it or not. If truth was not the goal of life, any child, you tell this boy a story. You say, Dad, did this really happen? They will ask you, small child from the very early days, is this true, Mom? They want to know what's the truth. Oh, there's police. That's why the psychologists are telling, don't tell them lies. Don't tell them there is police. Don't cry. The police will come. Because then they don't trust you. When police doesn't come, they say, where was that police? You couldn't prove that there was a police. Now, they're not articulating everything to you. But children are smart. They know everything you are telling them. Oh, this joke about, the mayor of Tehran, of course, says, Professor, we want to teach ethics to Tehranians. I said, okay, what's the problem? Tehraniyat, they are telling a lot of lies and we want to change them. So, I did not dare to say that. I said, it starts from the top. It starts there. Then it comes down to the people. People don't tell lies if the leaders don't tell lies. So, we have to watch out. And now, people follow the religion of those who exercise authority over them. If they are truthful, the people will become truthful. Oh, which politician is a truthful politician? Tell me the world. Therefore, Imam Ali was criticized, So Du'ata, he doesn't know politics. Had he been politics, then he would have concocted lies, like anybody does. Which politician? Can you hold any politician on ethical grounds? They will torture. There are no ethics in politics. This is what I'm saying. The truth is, Allah Taba'i says in Al-Mizan, it says, children from the very nature, they want to find out truth. Oh, tell me the truth, mother. I want to know the truth. If the mother struggles, this was what I had to, And many times children know that the parents are telling lies. They never tell you on the face, but they know it. The telephone is ringing, tell them I'm not here. Mother, you said there should be no lies. You're teaching her to tell lies. This is the tragedy of human situation. We are born, Allah Ta'ala is correct, في طبيعة الإنسان, in the very nature of human being, there is tahqiq al-haqiqah, the search for truth. It's the society that burdens us and says, don't tell the truth all the time. You'll displease people. You're too frank. You're too blunt. Therefore, with your friends, and you say, although you don't mean it, you say, Qurbul al-Jama'ah. All my life we sacrifice for you. Well, in my heart, I know I don't want to sacrifice my life for you. You might be truthfully saying it for someone, but not for everyone. Religious truth is ingrained in human beings. في فطرة الإنسان فألهمها فجورها وتقواها. God has already made it clear in our nature that there is something right and there is something wrong. There is something praiseworthy, there is something blameworthy. It's up to us to adopt the truth and to reject the falsehood. This is the meaning of Ja'al al-haq wa zahq al-batil. Inna al-batil kana zahuqa. That's what the Quran is trying to say. When the truth comes, falsehood is defeated. And falsehood will definitely be defeated. We need this because our spirituality depends upon truth. You want to experience Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? I'm telling you. People tell me that we can't concentrate in our prayers. They are not right. They are not right. I can prove to you that you can establish the prayers and concentrate in the prayers without losing a moment of concentration. When you like something, don't you listen? And you don't listen to anyone else? You like a piece of music. It's going on. Mom calls you, dad calls you, you don't even listen. You don't even hear. You hear only the tune. How come you do that? How come you can't do that in the prayer? The closer you are to the truth, the concentration you will have in your life. Therefore, I always mention this in the gathering in Muharram that when Zuhair bin Khaym and Abdullah al-Hanafi stood in front of Imam Hussain alayhi salam at the time of Zuhr, they were protecting the Imam. They were taking the arrow from themselves when Imam Hussain did the Salat al-Khawf, the prayer. And they fell down. How do we know that Abdullah and Zuhair did not offer the prayers? They prayed. How do you know that when he fell down, when he came on his knees, he did not say, Subhana Rabbil Azim wa bihamdi? Or when he fell on the ground, how do we know that he did not repeat with Imam Hussain, Subhana Rabbil Azim wa bihamdi? This is the level of spirituality I'm talking about. Call it Irfan Aini, objective Irfan, not subjective. This is what you experience. The transformation takes place in you. I'll tell you very honestly, in this community, that we don't know how to connect with Imam Sahib al-Zaman properly. If we knew how to connect with Imam Sahib al-Zaman, then you would feel the presence of Imam Sahib al-Zaman ka-mushahida, as if you are seeing him. You should know how to do it. Inshallah, there will be opportunity, and we will share this forms of meditation that I sometimes teach. Only to those who are interested, not those who simply want to observe. I'm interested in people who want to see the transformation. I'm not interested in people who are only academically interested. I do that in the university. I have enough people in the university. I need people who are connected, who want to do these things. ربنا تقبل منا إنك أنت السميع العليم. اللهم ادخلنا في كل خير أدخلت فيه محمد وآل محمد، وأخرجنا من كل سوء أخرجت من محمد وآل محمد، صلواتك عليه وعليهم أجمعين. التماثل
Actually, our boys are here to have a. Go ahead. Before they go question and answer, with your permission, we have a nasheed by the youth. After the nasheed, inshallah, we go for question.
Yeah, and before you do that, I must tell you, 1st of March is a Saturday. But I am away. So, I'll come a week after that.
Okay.
So, keep that in mind. The 1st of March, I saw the calendar today, and I'm in Doha at that time. So, I'll be coming the following Saturday, inshallah. Next question. Sure.
Inshallah. Bring you a cup of warm it up, man. Oh, you're supposed to be right here waiting for us. Tafadhal. Go behind it. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد.
I know I'm waiting for something to happen to me. This waiting comes with trials and challenges. Nothing in life is free. I wish that somehow you'd tell me out loud that on that day I'll be okay. We'll never know, 'cause that's not the way it works. Help me find my way.
Lord, show me right from wrong. Give me life, make me strong. I know the road is long. Make me strong. Sometimes it gets too much. I feel that I've lost touch. I know the road is long. Make me strong. I know I'm waiting, yearning for something known only to me. This waiting comes with trials and challenges. Life is one mystery. I wish that somehow you tell me out loud that on that day you'll forgive me. You'll never know, 'cause that's not the way it works. I beg for your mercy.
Right from wrong, give me life, make me strong. I know the road is long, make me strong. Sometimes it just gets too much. I feel that I've lost touch. I know the road is long, make me strong.
I know I'm waiting, waiting for something to happen to me. But this waiting comes with trials and challenges. Nothing in life is free. I wish that somehow you told me out loud that on that day I'll be okay. But we'll never know, 'cause that's not the way it works. Help me find my way. Lord, show me right from wrong. Give me life, make me strong. I know the road is long. Make me strong. Sometimes it gets too much. I've lost touch. I know the road is long. Make me strong.
اللهم صل على محمد محمد عزيز صلى الله عليه وسلم ان شاء الله.
That was good. Inshallah. Alhamdulillah to visit. We are going to benefit from him.
Before we go to question and answer, allow me to say something. When we receive our homeworks, I was mad at him. I told my wife, why is he giving us a homework that it is loaded with junk? And finally, I had to go ahead and pick up Tariq Tabari. Because what he wrote, he says, okay, go ahead and we discuss about the life of the early time of the life of the Prophet during the Meccans. So I knew there are a lot of things in there, in Tabari, that it is loaded with misinformation. And I said, let me tonight we go over there and tackle him, and then we go ahead and tell him, why did you give us a homework that it is like Prophet? So alhamdulillah, that was the reason behind it. May Allah forgive me. So that was very smart to read it and with that, alhamdulillah ta'ala, we go with
He
it.
did not ask us to read something, he asked us to read the foreword.
See, this is what happens. University people, they understand it quite they understand and they need.
For the rest, it will take a long time to understand. Any questions from anybody first?
You said there is no ethic in politics, but Imam Khomeini said exactly the opposite, that the Prophet practiced politics. Can you clarify what type of politics you mean there is no ethic in it? Is politics just one type of politics?
The way Imam Khomeini said, with your permission, he said, سیاست ما عین دیانت ماست.
I think that I should not be misunderstood. I meant the politicians today are not. The ideal has been always to moralize or to have ethics in politics. But in the other round, there isn't. That's what I'm not talking about the Prophet ﷺ. I also say that Imam Ali would not submit to politics. Because in his own time there were those who were doing politics. By the way, the Prophet ﷺ did not downplay politics. He actually described the politics to be part of our responsibility. But we had a greater responsibility to be